Well, hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jonathan and this is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. Today I want to talk to you about a book that I just finished reading, and that is called All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This is the story of a small town sheriff named Titus Crown, who after some time in the FBI returns to his hometown of, I think it's pronounced Sharon, Virginia. It's spelled Charon, Sharon County, Virginia, to become the sheriff. And I believe the story, even though the book was published in 2023, I think the story takes place in about 2016 or 2017. There are some things that happen in the story that took place during that time. Now, I think that the events that happened in the story were fictional, but they were based on real events that took place in our world. But anyway, back to the story. So Titus is the sheriff of his hometown, and he is the first black sheriff to be elected. The former sheriff, he was involved in some kind of accident and did not survive. And so his son was going to run to be the sheriff. Titus didn't like that idea, and enough people in the town also didn't like that idea. So they banded together and got Titus elected. Now, this is not an easy thing for him because the county, Sharon County, still has a lot of systemic racism that are taking place. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But one day, Titus is at the office and he gets word that there's been a shooting at the high school. And so he rushes over there with all of his deputies and come to find out that the son of one of his good friends from high school has just shot the beloved geography teacher. And he comes out and he's coming down the stairs and he's rambling some crazy stuff. And the sheriff is trying to get him to lay down his gun, and he doesn't lay down his gun. But before he charges at them with the gun, he yells, "Make sure you check his phone." And he runs at him, and unfortunately, police officers opened fire, and so 2 people died that day. And so they're trying to investigate why in the world would this young man, who he did have a history of some drug use and things like that, but why would he go back to the high school and shoot this teacher? Well, they open up the phone and discover some pretty heinous stuff on the teacher's phone. And by doing some digging in his house, they come to find out that this beloved teacher who everybody thought the world of was not the person that they thought he was. And so this begins an investigation, because as they dig into this horrible stuff that they're finding at the teacher's house, they discovered that there were 3 people involved with these crimes. And one of them was the young man who shot the teacher. One of them was the teacher. And then there's another guy who we never see his face, or the police never see his face, because he's always wearing a wolf mask. He's always bundled up head to toe in order to protect his identity. So he becomes known as the Last Wolf. And it turns out that through some investigating, they uncover a mass grave where multiple children have been murdered and buried in this field. And so that begins this investigation to try to find out who was the third person involved. And as they're investigating, a whole string of bodies start to pile up, because this becomes a very violent and very deadly time. All of that is taking place against the backdrop of a lot of hatefulness between the white community and the black community. The white community is still has a great deal of animosity and racism toward the black people that live in the county, and the black people are trying to figure out how they can live in light of what is happening to them. And so the book continues on like that. And I want to tell you, the parts of the book where they were focused on the investigation, I absolutely loved those parts. I am a sucker for a good crime drama, and this one, I'm gonna be honest, was really dark. Like it was gross at times. Some of the things that were done and described. You can't go into this book expecting a light, breezy read. I mean, primarily you pick that up from reading the description. But this one is heavy. There's a lot of heaviness in this book dealing with the crime, partly because of the crime itself and partly because of the victims. I'm trying to tiptoe around here. Some of the things that I struggled with as I read the book was the fact that so many of the characters were more caricatures than they were actually fleshed out characters. It seemed as if every person from a particular community, their whole sole drive was to resurrect the Confederacy and to subjugate black people back into slavery. That's maybe not the way that the author S.A. Cosby intended, but sometimes it came across that way. The white characters were very one-dimensional characters. There wasn't a lot of depth to them. But to be fair, many of the black characters in the book were also very one-dimensional. Another thing that I really kind of struggled with was the fact that there was a lot of religious elements in this book, and it was hard to tell at times if Titus, who was raised religious, his mother was a Sunday school teacher, and then his father became religious and started going to the church. It was very difficult to determine if he was struggling to find his faith, because he had there was a lot of guilt that he was dealing with, and there was a lot of animosity he had. But it was definitely everybody that was related to the church in some way was also, like I said, a one-dimensional character. The pastor of his father's church was just a shyster who was collecting offerings, but not fixing the building because he was buying a new Rolls Royce every year, and he had 50 suits and different things like that. So that was something that I struggled with, and I don't know if it was because Titus, the main character, was struggling to find his faith again, or if he was just so against religion that the author was just spewing a lot of anti-religious venom, I guess is a good way to put it. So if I had to give this a rating, I'm going to give the book a 3. It was a 3 out of 5. It was an interesting crime story. There was the investigation and the details of trying to figure out who the last wolf was. I loved that. That was great. Like I just laid out, the parts that I struggled with were the one-dimensional characters. Everybody seemed to be a caricature, and there was just a lot of violence and a lot of grossness being described, and there seemed to be a lot of anti-religion stuff that was in the book. Maybe somebody has read it and has a different view on that, and I'd be open to a discussion. But that was just kind of the feeling I came away with. When I finished the book, I looked at my wife and I said, yeah, I think I need to take a shower after what I had read. So, S.A. Cosby, lots of people love him. Stephen King left a good blurb on his book. Michael Connelly left a great blurb on his book. I just can't do that. It was not a bad book. It was well written. There were just a lot of things that made it a less than enjoyable reading experience for me. So there you go. That is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. Have you read that book? What did you think? Is my take on the book completely off base, or do you agree with some of the points that I bring out? Leave all of that down in the comments, and let me know, should I read another S.A. Cosby book? Because at this point, kind of on the fence as to whether I want to do that again. I may read another one at some point, but it's not likely. But leave all that down in the comments. And as always, my name is Jonathan. This is Mr. Pearson Talks Books. We'll see you next time.